Hello everyone again. This is Snehar Shah from the Obizz Podcast Series. This is our third podcast that we're doing. And today it's about something a little different. As you know, we're focusing on the economic pillar. But today we're going to talk about a multitude of things on giving, on selfless service, on leadership, on impact. And today we have somebody who is, I would say, larger than life, someone who is living life to the fullest, somebody who is very affectionate. I call him Bhai, but his name is Pankaj Shah. Pankaj Shah from Team Pankaj, a man of many cards. So thank you, Pankaj, for making the time. Maybe to kick off, Tell us about your journey, Pankaj. You've done so much, and I'm sure you have so much yet to achieve. But what has been Pankaj's journey?
So I'm born in Kenya, lived all my life here. I don't think I've spent more than 6 months away from this country at one given time. And my education was mostly here. I'm a Form 4 dropout. My parents didn't have money at the time for further education, and I had to join family business. And I started learning about different parts of Nairobi. I've always been I've been an intrepid traveler and also a very much a person who likes road tripping within the country. So I know this city very, very well. Mm-hmm. And in 1988, on the 2nd of July, I had a very unique accident.
Right.
I had an accident with Mother Teresa's car when she arrived in Nairobi.
Okay.
It was a Sunday morning, if I remember. And I'd gone to drop my mother off to the airport. She was going down to Mombasa with my brother, and I had a 2-day-old new car. It wasn't brand new, but for me it was new. And a tire came out of Mother Teresa's car and hit my mudguard. So my car wasn't damaged, but their axle was down. And that's how I met her, and that's how my life changed completely. So the next 2 days I spent
So you're one of the few who has actually met Mother Teresa personally?
Yes, I met her personally at that time. Then, of course, I was young. At the time, I was only 23 years old. Mm-hmm. So I came out of the car yelling, but then I saw her. I never knew who she really was at the time. The only thing that I knew about her was that in 1986, she had a plane crash in Dodoma, where she survived. And from that time, we had a little bit of follow-up. I had an aunt who used to go to their home, taking bread sometimes. So I used to accompany her. But I had never been to their home in Huruma, which is in the Mathare slums. And so I brought her into my car and I drove her to their home for 45 minutes, and she chatted with me. And then she invited me to go and work with her in Kolkata. So in the year 1989, I was going to take a sabbatical anyway.
Right.
And I spent 95 days in her home from the 15th of July to around the 5th of May.
Okay.
And I used to work in 2 homes there. There was a home near the banks of the Hooghly River called the Nirmal Shishu Bhavan, and another one called Nirmal Hriday. Nirmal Hriday was more of a hospice, so people came there to die. People who were destitute, people who had terminal disease, people who had leprosy. And Nirmal Shishu Bhavan, which means a special child's place, was a home for about 173 mentally retarded children. And I arrived in Calcutta, a young man with my backpack, and realized that it's going to be a tough call because I'd never done anything like that. I'd never slept on the floor before, on a mat. I had never slept without a pillow. And I was told that there's a place to sleep, so I thought there would be a bed and everything. And then it took me about 4 days to adjust to the whole system. And I was placed into the children's home. So we were 16 young boys and girls, and about another 15 nuns in waiting information. So they were, all of us together used to look after these 178 mentally retarded children from the age of 2 years to 18 years. And once they were 18, they would be taken to another home.
Right.
And so that's where I learned a little bit of compassion and humility. It was a fantastic experience because we ate twice a day only. So everybody at Mother Teresa's home, or anybody who's serving there, eats 2 meals a day, and the third one is kept for a hungry person.
And that compassion and humility has stayed with you all this time? Because sometimes, you can experience something and that experience can rub off over time.
I think I learned it from the most powerful person in the world in that field. She was very, very strict with all her work, very time-oriented and time-conscious all the time. We always had to do everything 100% on time. The only day I had off was Sunday from 9 o'clock in the morning till 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So I used to treat myself. Being a young man, I used to go to a nearby hotel and get into a hot bathtub and smoke a few cigarettes and go for a shave because, the whole week you hadn't done anything. I used to go to a nearby barber for a shave first, then a bath, and then go around and have lunch and come back. So Sunday we used to treat ourselves with lunch, but at the home there was a pot of fish stew for lunch and a pot of vegetables or dal, rice or chapati, and then you had to pray and you had to choose whether you wanted to have rice or chapati, and you could never go back for a second helping because that was again supposed to save somebody else's life. So 95 days of that, twice a day, and in between looking after the children, so cleaning, clothing, feeding, cleaning up the whole rooms and everything. And then in 10 days I became the leader of the troop because the leader of that troop had finished his stay. He was there for 6 months. He was an American guy called Alex Dixon, and I'm still friends with him. He left and to go back to his life, and I took over for the next 90 days or so, 88 days, and that's where I learned a lot of humility. And one day I asked her on a Sunday afternoon that I wanted to spend an hour or so with her. So she says, okay, no problem. And then she came up at 4 o'clock and held my right hand and walked to the banks of the Hooghly River as the sun was setting, and we sat there with her. And at that time she made me promise that I'd adopt a girl child from any one of her homes in the world. Okay. And that's where my daughter comes from.
Wow.
And luckily enough, our son Jay is also adopted, and him we found here, and that's what changed a lot of my life. And I've always had the will to help wherever there is necessary, wherever it's necessary.
Yes.
My first real encounter with a lot of strife for a day was in 1998 when the
bomb blast happened.
The bomb blast happened in Nairobi. I was across at the railways headquarters negotiating for prices of Nairobi to Mombasa railway tickets when it happened. So I ran across. It was a huge boom. I ran across, and unfortunately the American security threw us out immediately.
So you mean to say you ran towards the bomb blast?
I went to the bomb blast.
A normal person would run away from the bomb blast.
I ran towards the bomb blast.
Why did you run towards the bomb blast?
That's my nature. I ran towards the bomb blast. We helped take out a few people. We helped push out a lot of people. But then to get near the embassy it was a mountain of rubble. To get near the embassy became very tough because a lot of security from all over came in. A lot of British security and American security, and people I'd never seen before as security all came up wearing helmets. They were in plain clothes wearing helmets, and that's when it first started. Meanwhile, when I came back, I went to Mother Teresa's home in Huruma very regularly, 15 days, 10 days, 15 days. I'd always be there. I'd finish work and drive there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So I know the Huruma slum very, very well, village by village by village.
Okay.
And I've taken walks through the slum with the sisters, seen the challenges that people have. Together with the sisters, we started a nursery school there, which was funded by ILM Bank. And there are 6 classes. And we started with a few companies doing a meal for the children. The main thing that the children came for to school was that hot lunch, which was ugali and sukuma or githeri or rice and beans. So they came to school 6 days a week, and that was their foundation. And the sisters taught in the school. They also had some few volunteers from the area who also came and taught and looked after the little children. So there is a nursery school that's going on there, but right now it's closed because of COVID. So I've been working with them. I also work with their other home, which is called the New Life Home in Kibra, which is a brother's home. And I've been working there in Kibra with different projects. So what we have done is, with the help of the Lions Eye Hospital, we've treated a lot of people with cataracts free of charge, but very, very quietly. I had never taken a bigger role. I used to just do referrals and stuff like that.
Right. So Pankaj, let me just ask you, I mean, we're talking a lot about sort of the social, charitable aspect of you. Of course, you are bringing up your family, you're running your business, which of course the travel industry has gone through its ups and downs. But how do you get time to focus on your social, charitable aspect? And the question I have is, you as one person is trying to do all these things. Do you think one person can make such a difference?
Anything little you can do for social enterprise and charitable work makes a difference. That's what I always believe. My business has taken a big beating since the year 2008, when the first, or 2007, 30th December. Every year there's been something new in this country which has ravished and ravaged tourism very, very badly. So 2008 was the violence post-election.
Yes.
2009, it didn't recover. 2011, there was a little bit of a bomb blast somewhere in the world. 2012, we had elections again.
Yes.
2013, we had the bomb blasts in the Westgate attack.
And we're coming up to the 7th anniversary, and I think you were also very instrumental in helping out there.
So 2014 and 15 went over fighting Ebola. 2016, Imperial Bank went down with a lot of my money and a lot of other people's money in tourism. 2017 was another year of election. 2018, they ruined my offices at Nakumatt UK, so I took a big hit.
Right.
And 2019 was a relatively stable year, and we are looking forward to a fantastic 2020, which was absolutely excellent in terms of tourism, and then COVID hit. So my business got closed for the last 5 months. The first day I went to office was this Wednesday.
Okay.
After 5.5 months.
So the last 5 months, you've been working on something quite different, and I think for people who don't know, you've reached one of the highest level of recognitions from the president and the government of Kenya with the Madaraka Day honors that you got, and this is all about Team Pankaj, right? So,
Yes.
so just tell us, what has been the story of Team Pankaj? How did it come about?
On the 21st of March this year, I was trying to tell my daughter to get out of New York. She studies there at the American Academy of Dramatic Art. And I was trying to get her to get out for the last 4 days. From the 18th, I was pushing her to get out of New York. But young children, they said, my friends are all here. Where will I go? So I have a friend who was in school with me, and he lives in South Jersey. And finally, on the 21st, I gave my daughter an ultimatum to get out. And when she was, and that afternoon, I went to Mother Teresa's home in Huruma for a prayer so that she could get out of New York safely. New York was already very, very bad at the time. And so at 4 o'clock, I went to the home and I prayed with the sisters for an hour, and came back home. And at midnight, Nairobi's midnight, my daughter boarded a bus to get to South Jersey. Luckily, there were only 6 people on that coach from Port Authority in New York. And In 2.5 hours, she reached my friend's home. So that was midnight to 2:30 in the morning. And I had taken a walk earlier in the day through Huruma and to see what was happening. Kenya closed down on the 7th of March. So people already had lost their jobs and they did not have food. And the sisters had briefed me because of my regular visits. Everybody knows me there of what was happening. And from midnight to 2:30, my wife and I were sitting on our bed waiting for our daughter to get out of New York and get to my friend's home with an Uwasagram path going on my phone. And I got this bright idea of doing food hampers for people in the slums around Mother Teresa's home. So the next morning, that same morning at about 4 o'clock in the morning, I put a small appeal on Facebook saying that I'm going to start doing this, and it's going to cost 3,000 shillings per family, and they'll get a whole month's food package. And I quickly went on to Jumia and I calculated what it would cost me. It was costing about 3,200 bob. I spoke to Deepan of Chandarana and I started thinking that I'd probably do about 500 to 600 packs.
Right.
Within a day, we did the first 100 packs. So 22nd evening, we did 100 packs and we delivered them to Mother Teresa's home on the 23rd. And we tried to call in people to give them out, and there was a crowd of about 1,000 people. So we stopped giving the food out, and we decided that we'll go and give it to people who really need it. So we opened those first packs and gave people like just a packet of unga and a packet of beans, or a packet of sugar and a packet of unga.
Right.
Or a packet of rice, and it started, and then suddenly I realized that the need is absolutely huge.
So what have you achieved so far?
So then, when the need became bigger, we started making a smaller pack so that we could get to more families. So we did a pack which was about 18 kilos of food and soap, because sanitizing was important. And we have done 125,000 families as of 30th August this year.
Amazing. Okay.
The cost of an average pack was about a little bit less than 1,500 shillings, but then we had staff who were moving all the goods to pay and everything. So we did 108 children's homes who have been done 4 times over. So May, June, July and August, all the homes have been secured. September, 84 homes have been secured. The rest we are still looking for funding, but we will secure them, and we are looking after them.
Right.
So we've done 125,000 homes of food, for food, delivered door to door, most of it. Some places at community centers where people have gathered and social distanced and picked up the food. But I would say only about 15,000 of those packs went like that. The rest of them were delivered by volunteers and by my team. So Team
So
Pankaj,
you made sure that that money or that funding went into the right mouths, right?
Yeah, so we did direct deliveries to people's home.
Yes.
We also became a team very, very fast. So it was me, my son, and one of my staff, Hetal, because our offices had closed. There was no work.
Yeah.
So I decided that from 21st, we will no longer go back to work for a few days and go to work once a week. So we started doing that, and the team became bigger and bigger.
Wow. So Pankaj, I guess it's human nature that, when you're doing good work, there'll be a following that will support you, will contribute, and I think you've done fantastic to get to where you are. Of course, there will be the skeptics and the critics who are out there who may, not be contributing on their side. Maybe they have other values they follow. But people could ask that whatever we're doing, how sustainable can that be? So what are your thoughts about doing things which are more permanent and more sustainable, and how can we progress on that front?
So during the 3 months, I met an amazing array of people living in the slums or working in the slums or living around the slums, and I have learned a lot. I have never learned so much in my life, and neither have most of my team members. Team Pankaj was based 100% on prayer. We used to pray 5 times a day. So before we started at 8 o'clock in the morning, when everybody got together at 10:30 before lunch, in the afternoon after lunch, and before we broke off at 6 o'clock in the evening, there was always prayer. So we started on the basis of prayer. Something that Mother Teresa told me was, as long as you are secular and non-political, God gives you a front, is in front of you. So you place God in front of you and take your stride. And the prayer that we had was to ask God to stop us in our stride if we are doing anything wrong. And that's how we prayed every day. And we prayed in Hinduism, we prayed in Jainism, we prayed in Islam, we prayed in Christianity, and we sang the national anthem, which is also a prayer. So that helped us. That kept the team together. And many a time I found that, there were critics and people skeptical about it. And then we decided to adopt a very nice philosophy, which I instilled in the whole team. If anybody had anything negative to say, we would say, let them suffer in silence.
Yes.
And we will also suffer in silence. So we ignored all the negatives and we are out on a positive note.
That's great. But what are your thoughts on now making this more sustainable?
We learned a lot from the people around us. One of the first people I met was a lady called Sister Mary, who has been working in the Mukuru slums for 47 years. And on the first day I sat with, when I went to see her, to see what was happening in Mukuru, one of my friends at Ramgarhia Youth Association said that they are going to Mukuru to do some food, but they got bashed by the people. There was just too much need and they had only 200 packs of food. So I went to see Sister Mary and I told her I want to do it in an organized way. So she has she runs 7 schools in that area, and she's running a disability center and she's running a rehab center. So we decided that we will work with her, and she introduced me to a really nice gentleman called Brother Frank, who is in Mukuru at Ruben Center. So he came up, and one after the other, people came up. Of course, we also found some people who are not right, thieves. Some very little of our food really ended up in supermarkets in the early part. But then we were delivering door to door home, especially after the 11th of April, when that big issue happened in Kibra. The government stopped us from giving out food at school halls or whatever. So these people, we started working with these people, and immediately, my eyes fell on very many different projects. And I have a very good mentor. His name is Manubai K.D. Shah.
Right.
And I used to confer with him every single day on these issues. And he introduced me to some very nice work that has been done by Mohammed Yunus of Grameen Bank.
Right.
Yeah, and so what I did was I downloaded Audible and I listened to all his books every evening. And I've listened to all his books now 3 times, and that has taught me a lot of sustainable projects. So we've now started something which is called Team Pankaj Social Business, which is a complete non-profit making organization. It's in the process of formation and registration in the government, because the government's just opened. So next week we'll have that on. And we already have some projects running in Ruben Slum. So I have brass band running in Ruben Slum, which Team Pankaj is sponsoring. So that's sponsoring performing arts as a way of livelihood for children. We have a bike project which we have 20 bikes where bikers go around selling bread. We are replicating that project in Komorok at MISA, which is the Mathare Youth Sports Association, and at the Mathare Grassroots and Mathare Center for Gender-Based Violence. So those community-based organizations are now working with us, and we hope that by January we should have 500 bikers on the way. So those people will never have to seek handouts of food.
And you also had a project for providing uji on a sustainable basis through the kiosks.
We are still awaiting, Nairobi is taking a big change through general body. we are still awaiting on approvals of that. So
Okay.
the Uji project is going, because there's a lot of road development in the slums. We are waiting for allocation of spots to us to put up the Uji kiosks.
Right.
So that's why, because it took time, I started on the bread project.
Right.
We also have a very nice project where autistic children and children with cerebral palsy are able to get physiotherapy for free, absolutely free of charge.
So Pankaj, I think there is so much, wealth of ideas and projects that are ongoing. I think we'll have to do a separate podcast just to look at the sustainable angle, and hopefully by then some of these would have come to life. So we really look forward to that. But really, thank you so much for sharing your journey, your achievements so far. And when you started, you said you are a Form 4 dropout, and I think there's a strong message in there. Because a lot of things are changing in the world. Education is changing. The way parents should approach education should also change, and you're a living example of that. Because sometimes if you follow the traditional path of following certain set professions, then that can probably limit you. I think what you have shown that sometimes education can be a handicap, and you should really follow your passion. Live your life to the fullest, of course, succeed in your own way, but also, more importantly, the more you give, the more you can get. Would that summarize the way Pankaj is living?
Yes, as I told you, I'm very, very intrepid. You know me from days ago. I'm a very brave person.
Very bold.
Very bold also. I speak my mind. I'm against a lot of things which hurt society in different ways, like what we have in Africa is these people from US coming to give fake doctorates here, people not working in the right environment, because this is what we are going to live with our children. Yeah, when our children will get this ideas about all these things that are happening. But I also sobered down a lot. I also become quieter after this 5-month journey. So what I've decided to do now is that I'm going to go on to positives only. I'm 55 years old now. I've got 15 years to go. And in those 15 years, I want to try and uplift lives of 1 million people in the city of Nairobi, out of poverty, to get them into livelihood so that I can leave my legacy before it's time to go.
Great. That's a very nice concluding remark. So thank you very much, Pankaj, and wish you the best, and to Team Pankaj. Thank you.
Thank you very much.